Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Premiership Quarter. Today, I'm going through my 2024 AFL Ladder Predictions. We've got the teams at the bottom here, the positions on the ladder. I'm going to go through 18th through 1st, and in the 18th position, I have the West Coast Eagles. It's not a surprise. I think they didn't really add any prime players. They've added a couple rookies who I think can be really good. They've also added Tyler Brockman, who can add a couple things to their forward line if Jamie Cripps goes down, but a lot of their season will rely on success in health. If they can stay healthy and if their players can play over 20 games like Yo, McGovern, Sheed, then I think they can at least stay competitive. But they don't have a lot of good depth. It's a very top heavy list, and they are relying on a lot of older players to help stay relevant in games. In 17th, I have Fremantle. I I just don't see where the improvement comes from. I think losing one of your best players in the forward line in Lockie Schultz, when that's your biggest weakness, is going to be really, really difficult for them. I don't think Amos will definitively get better. I think a lot of expectations have been put on him to perform, and I think he might not kick more than 10 goals more than he did last year because he had such a good season. And I think Longmuir will get sacked. I think that'll create a lot of uncertainty, and I think it'll make it really difficult for them to play within a system that works and gives them success. In 16th, I have North Melbourne. Now, Alistair Clarkson had a really difficult year last year, obviously, with the Hawthorn situation, but he's got lots of things to play with except key position depth. It's Griffin Logue's out to midway through the season with a torn ACL, which is really unfortunate. You've got Aiden Core, who's easily one of the most overpaid players of all time, and it's Toby Pink outside of that, who just is not proven, and I think that'll really struggle. They'll really struggle with being able to contain players like Kerno, Walker, Larkey, Cameron, and it will be the bane of their existence. They will rely on Clarkson to put in a system that will help them defensively, but that can take away from any excitement they can have going forward in order to stop their defense being exposed every single time. In 15th, I have the Geelong Cats. Now, although they do have great experience and great talent on their list, being in Tom Stewart, in Jeremy Cameron, Max Holmes is a really good player, Tom Hawkins still, Tyson Stengel made an All-Australian team not even 2 years ago. There's very little outside of that I see as a bonus to their current playing list, and I think they'll struggle. Again, health can be really difficult for them to deal with if they have another season where players can't stay on the field. So I think they can struggle, and I see them in my bottom four. 14th, I have Hawthorn. Now, yes, lots of people think they're going to be really good this season, but I think they just need to hold their horses. It's going to be lots of expectations on them to improve, and I just don't see their defense being able to sustain anything that when teams are able to get on top of them. Yes, they have Sicily, who's a really good, who's all Australian caliber, and yes, they have Blake Hardwick, who's a really good small defender. But outside of that, there's very little experience, and I see them struggling to play defensive, and it'll be lots of high scores this season for them. In 13th, I have Richmond. Now, a lot of Richmond's season, in my opinion, relies on the health of Tom Lynch. He has struggled to stay fit two out of the last 3 seasons, and that has impacted Richmond and their success quite heavily. And the one season he was able to stay fit was 2022, when they pushed Brisbane all the way in that elimination final. Now, they do have a lot of class outside of that, with players like Dusty, Shea Bolton, Dion Prestia, Jaden Short, got Noah Bolter, Dylan Grimes, Nick Floston. So there's still a lot there, but I think the pieces surrounding them just aren't enough yet. I think with Soldo gone and a lot more load on Nankervis and not a lot of backup to him, I think they might struggle if he picks up an injury really bad. And outside of Lynch in the forward line, again, they look very short. And if he doesn't stay healthy, then they'll really struggle and could very easily finish bottom four. In 12th, I have Essendon. Now, they did add a lot of pieces through free agency and the trade period with Goldstein, Dersma, Mackay, and Gresham, and they did draft really well, which will be great for them in the future. I think Gresham and Goldstein will struggle to make an impact for them this season. I think there was a reason that Goldstein wasn't consistently in North's best 22 all year. Outside of injuries, I can't remember if he had any, but I think a lot will rely on Draper to be the number one ruck throughout the entire year, staying healthy. And I'm as a St Kilda fan who has dealt with years of Jade Gresham, he struggles to kick more than 30 meters on a set shot, and he skies every kick inside forward 50, which it becomes so annoying to deal with when it's week in, week out. I also think if someone like Peter Wright doesn't have a season near what his 2021 season was like, where he's challenging basically for the Coleman, then I think they can struggle up forward at times, because I think players like Archie Perkins and Harry Jones have been quite disappointing. I think if Archie Perkins were to have a breakout year, then things could be different, but he hasn't shown that he can be at that level for anything more than 15 games. And down back, I don't think outside of Mackay and Ridley, there's a lot there to be happy about defensively. I think Redmond going forward is great, but I think someone like Andy McGrath and Nick Hine just aren't going to cut it for them to be good enough defensively. In 11th, I have the Western Bulldogs. There is a lot of pressure on the Western Bulldogs to succeed this year, and there are passageways for them to do it, but I can't see it happening. And a lot of pressure will be on Luke Beveridge, and a lot of pressure will be on their players to succeed. But I don't think it'll happen, at least not this year under Luke Beveridge. I think for them to be able to move forward and give Bontempelli the best chance to win another flag, then they have to get rid of Luke Beveridge. They cleared everything out next to him in the off-season. They've got a review going underway at the moment. Whether it's the same thing with St Kilda in 2022, where they got rid of Ross, when they got rid of Brett Ratton and hired Ross Lyon. Well, it's a wait and see, but it's very late to do that. And I also think they've got a lot of uncertainty in their team. Does Sam Darcy play as a key defender alongside Liam Jones, because he has very little help outside of that? Does Jed Bustling, a draft pick in 2021, make his debut after a couple injury-riddled seasons? And does he make a difference in their team? Does, like Kane Corns and David King want every week, does Aaron Norton go to the back line and provide some support there? Does Rory Lobb, Aaron Norton, Ugelhagen, and Sam Darcy play in the forward line as the four tools? It's very much a wait and see, and I think there's so much uncertainty that they'll really struggle at times. In 10th, I have St Kilda. Now, as a Saints supporter, this burns me. I really don't want to do this, but I think trying to be as unbiased as possible, I think even if we improve, other teams around us will improve more, and we can struggle to fight for that 8th position, because I don't see us finishing any higher. Now, we've added a couple players in the offseason that help us with speed in the midfield, but none of them are guaranteed in Henry and Dow to play every game. And there's also, we're relying on a lot of youth to push us through. Players like Owens, Windhager, Wanganeen Miller, Darcy Wilson. And I think if they don't have internal improvement, if they don't improve like in a linear fashion, which can very often happen to teams. And this year may just be a stagnating period where we can win some games, we'll lose others, and we won't make finals. In ninth, I have Port Adelaide. Yes, they improved their biggest weakness, which was key defensive pillars with Radaglia and Zerk Thatcher. But I don't see either of them being actual lockdowns, which is what they need, because Alira is more of an interceptor. He's more of the James Sisleys than a Callum Wilkie. And Brandon Zerk Thatcher, in my opinion, is not a top 22 player. I don't think he should be in your best 23 come finals. And so is it really moving the needle even though you filled the positions? I also think if Horn Francis doesn't make a leap, if Mitch Georgiades doesn't stay healthy, then up forward, they're going to be choosing between 5 key position players every week with Dixon, with Finlayson, with Marshall, with Ollie Lord, and with Georgiades. They've got good smalls, absolutely, and they're really good in the midfield. And I think Soldo will have a great year, but I just think a couple injuries here and there, especially with someone like Butters or Rosie going down, then they could really, really struggle. In eighth, sneaking in to the finals, I have Adelaide. Adelaide are going to be a really good team this year. They're going to be very, very difficult to stop scoring because of the firepower they have up front. The likes of Walker, Fogarty, Rochelle, Rankin. They were also very unfortunate to not trade for Harrison Petty, who would have been really important for them, either playing as a forward, but in my opinion, more of a key defender, because with Butts' injury and Murray's injuries last year, they were able to blood players like Josh Worrell and Borlase. And I think it'll be really tough for any 4 of them to pick, because I think it's a free-for-all, really. And with Harrison Petty, you were at least able to get someone locked in next to players like Michelini. But outside of that, their midfield's strong, but there's still room for improvement. I think if Rochelle and Rankin can sort of split time there, it would be really important to them. And if Jordan Dawson becomes a full-time mid for the entire season, then he has every shot at being top 5 in the Brownlow. In 7th position, I have the Gold Coast Suns. If Damien Hardwick believes that there's 80% of a premiership list before the draft, then there is no reason for them to not make finals this year. The talent and the draft pools they've been allowed to have access to over the years is seriously not normal and should not be allowed. If you've got top 10 picks all across the field and you're still in the bottom 4 after a good 3 or 4 years of not adding to it, then there's something wrong. And if Damien Hardwick's not able to change that, I think it's really, really disappointing. His system that he's going to implement can really help, because the Suns at their best have played a very similar style. And I think they will get it together. I think this year will be the year they start winning games on a consistent basis, make Carrara Stadium an impossible ground to win it like GMHBA or what Optus Stadium used to be for West Coast. And if they do that and Ben King's able to return to form and kick 50, 60 goals in the season, Jed Walter can be really important as a rookie for them. He's going to be such a good player. Then I think everything can go in the right direction, then they can finish in the 8. In 6th position, I have Melbourne. Yes, there's been a lot of issues with them off the field lately, but it's similar to Gold Coast where they just have so much talent across the board. Look at the likes of Stephen May, Jake Lever, Christian Saylor, Max Gorn, Petrarca, Oliver, Frisch, Pickett. There is so much talent, and for them to fall out of the 8, I think would be one of the great disappointments. So the expectations really on them. Could something happen to where they fall out? Yes, they've got lots of things. If Oliver isn't able to get on the field, If Frisch has another injury, we saw how much it impacted them. And now with Grundy out and no one really to support him in the twos, if he picks up an injury at this age, season's very much in danger. But there's a point to prove with them. Everyone's coming at them. I think they'll stand up and they should finish in the 8 with a home final. In 5th, just missing out of the top 4, I have GWS. They were the team of last season in the second half. No one could properly stop them, and they were only a goal away from making the grand final against the team that won it away from home. So it was a really impressive season under the first year of Adam Kingsley, and there's nothing you can do but applaud them. They don't have anyone hitting the back end of the career. They've all got, at the oldest, really, 31-year-old or 32-year-old. So they've still got a couple more years of being all-Australian caliber in Cornelio, in Kelly, in Whitfield, and in Haynes. Well, Haynes more as a sub. But plays like Aaron Cadman, Sam Taylor, Connor Iden, Jack Buckley. Like, there is so much talent on this list that there's no world where, with the system they showed last year and Kieran Briggs having the second half of the season for the entire year this year, there's no reason for them to not be successful. In 4th, I have the Sydney Swans. Sydney had, I think, the best off-season. Adding Grundy and Adams is really important, especially with Mills. If he's not able to play early, Adams will fill that role really well. He's a great leader. Same with Grundy. Because Tom Hickey last year struggled with injury, and Peter Laddams really isn't a top 25 ruckman in the game. And so it was a big weakness for them. And so I think if you've got Goulden having the season he had last year, the same this year, you have Chad Warner, Damien Barrett's favourite, having a great year as well, the same that he had in 2022. Braden Campbell having a breakout year. Callum Mills coming back and being a really important player. I think there's a lot there. And the only real downside to their list at the moment is key positions, where Tom McCartan, who's a really, really good player, is the only real depth that they have outside of Dane Ramby, who's more of a mid-sized key defender anyway. I think it could be an issue for them against teams with two genuine key forwards, but I think they'll really, really succeed through the middle and up forward. Players like Papley and Heaney pushing for all Australians this year, in my opinion. In 3rd, I have Collingwood. I think there's a big hole for them with McStay not playing this year with the ACL injury he had. There's still lots of upside for them. Players like Josh Dacos can get better. Nick Dacos can get better somehow. Quainer jumping up to an All-Australian level. Brody Mychek being as consistent as ever. But I think if Darcy Cameron can lock down the ruck position, I think if some of their up-and-coming midfielders can really lock down positions, there's more to stay. But if someone like Sidebottom gets injured, if Pendlebury dips a little bit due to their age, they're not as young as people think. There's still quite a lot of experience there. And I think if some of their younger players aren't able to step up, then it could be a bit of a problem for them later in the season. In 2nd, I have Carlton. Wow, is there a lot of talent, and wow, when they start playing, are they difficult to beat. Cripps, Walsh, Chera, Kennedy, Hewitt, Doherty. Then you've got Wiedering at the back. You've got McKernow, Mackay up forward. There is a lot of talent on this list, and finally they were able to show it at their peak in the back half of last year, getting in front in a prelim final at home, away against Brisbane, who hadn't lost at that stage. They've got Blake Acres, who had a terrific final season last year. They've got Sam Walsh, who is fully fit now, heading into a preseason for the first time in what feels like forever, who could really push for a Brownlow medal, top 3, if not top 2, top 1. I think there's so much right in this list that there's no reason for them to fall out of the 8 unless they get hit badly with injuries. And first, I've got Brisbane. They've got something to prove. Losing the grand final by a goal when you could have very easily have won it. They've got something to prove. And when you've got additions like Dodie that can really fill a position you needed, then there's nothing for them. There's no weakness in their team in the back half of the season. You've got Ashcroft coming back. You've got Wilmot being an excellent player for them in the back half of the season in the finals. You've got Cam Rayner, who can finally make a breakout season. You've just got so many options, and there's so little for what teams can do to stop them. And the Gabba is it's a nightmare for teams to travel to. So I think they will finish first, and I think they have got probably the best chance to make it all the way through to the grand final of all the teams. So yeah, that's my ladder. Please hit the subscribe button, drop a like on the video if you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.